and I was pretty far up in the line, and there was a city worker behind me who witnessed the same accident. It looked pretty bad. It came up suddenly. That city worker, whoever he is, he was out of his truck with phone in hand, walking before anybody else could even figure out what was going on, and the response was just beautiful. Everybody there, it was a well-oiled machine. I don't want to see that change.
Okay, and Paul, you had something to say? Go ahead, please.
I do. First, with Lynn, I just disagree with her that we need to hire outside legal fees for our legal department to negotiate contracts. I think that is a position of wasting money. I think that we need to have somebody that is able to do the job, or find that person instead of outside fees. Addressing Chris's issue about when I used the word waste. During his years as an alderman, I want to just remind you of a couple things that had happened, like the outside consulting firm on the East Lincoln corridor. We got a very expensive report there for $250,000 that we did basically just put on file. Okay. During that same time, too, we also got one for Route 23 South 4th Street. Their suggestion from that outside consulting engineering firm, their thing that they told us we should do is make that 4-lane to a 2-lane and put a center curb in with trees to beautify it. First of all, that would cause congestion and problems with the high school and Sullivan's traffic from Sullivan's grocery store. That advice cost us $144,000. What hadn't happened is that they really hadn't been in conjunction much or whatever works it out with the Illinois Department of Transportation, because Route 23 is a state highway. And most of the citizens of this town said that they would first have contacted the Illinois Department of Transportation before you went ahead with that project or hired that outside consulting fee to see if it was feasible, and obviously it was not. Second of all, if you add those two things together, that's roughly $500,000. That could have hired 5 or 6 police or firemen to fill those positions, and that would have brought us up close to the minimum safety level, but not at it. When you add those things together, I call that waste. There's also a waste of money because with this hiring freeze this administration chose to do, we're paying policemen and firemen an exorbitant amount, as Lynn said, of overtime. We could within hire and get it up to standards just from the money we're paying in overtime. But the refusal to do so and to ignore this problem is not helping the city of DeKalb. It's not helping the security or the safety of the citizens. We cannot play these first responders as if they are just a commodity. We need to look within. Yes, we need to make cuts in management, but we must fully staff our police and fire departments, and they just don't seem to see that that's a priority. So I see a lot of waste where we could use Northern Illinois University and network with them in our engineering department when we're talking about the flood problems or the possible expansion of City Hall and the police station. We do not need to always go out and hire an outside consulting firm, expensive consulting engineering firms. We have them right here in our backyard, and I'm sure that they would love to get the opportunity for some on-the-job training.
All right, we have Mark on the phone. We're going to get to him in just a moment. But, Chris, if you have one more thing to kind of wrap up our discussion about the budget, or are you happy with where we're at right now?
Well, I think we're doing a great job with the budget. There's many things that my opponents don't understand about contracts, about overtime. It's easy to use anecdotal information and make statements that overtime is exorbitant. One of the things that we need to do is figure out, and we continue to do, is how to manage what we have with the current revenues that we have. On the one hand, I hear my opponents continually say we need to lower taxes. People are paying too much. On the other hand, we need to hire more staff. That is an oxymoron. What we've been able to do over the years is increase taxes at a minimal rate, and at the same time keep our staffing levels at the level that we assure the safety of our community and that we can continue the quality of life that we have had for the many years and will continue to have. I deal with the facts and not anecdotal information.
1360 WLBK, you're listening to Decision 2009, visiting with the 3 candidates for mayor of DeKalb, Chris Povlsen, Lynn Fasikis, and Paul Kallenbach. And we're also taking phone calls right now. Matter of fact, we have Mark on the phone, so if you have your headphones on. Mark, you have a question for the 3 candidates.
Yeah, I do appreciate WLBK holding this forum. I think it's very informational. As all three candidates know, there's been a lot of discussion taking place recently regarding the home rule issue. Recently, due to the large array of taxes that have been imposed on the citizens of DeKalb in 2008 by the DeKalb City Council, there was a lot. Now, as you know, the DeKalb Electoral Board recently voted to remove the home rule question from the April 7th ballot due to a technicality. Many citizens still have indicated their wish to have a vote on this important question. Now, obviously, it's not going to make this particular election, but state statute allows the city council to place this on the ballot if it chooses, and the next opportunity would be in 2011 by a simple 4-3 vote. I want to ask all three candidates, would you, as mayor, be willing to officially add to the city council agenda a vote on a binding referendum to be voted on by the citizens of DeKalb in 2011?
All right, Mark, thank you so much for your phone call. Let's go to Paul now. We'll start with Paul this time. Paul Kallenbach. Well, Paul, what do you have to say? How do you respond to that?
I want to thank Mark Shabbat for that question. Home rule is something I'm not sure we would have to go back and check with the citizens. 2011 is a long way off, as far as I'm concerned, especially with their current situation. If the citizens of this town wanted to put that on as a referendum on the ballot, I would have the integrity to put it on the ballot if that's what the citizens wanted. I don't think there's anything wrong with the vote, but you have to give them the opportunity. And I don't think, in the last problem when we had with the home rule, Acting Mayor Povlsen was on that board. I know what he's referring to. That he was opposed to home rule, and I thank him for that because that's my position also. You got one in a row, right? But he did not take his sword off the board. And in all fairness, I believe that he probably should have. He talks about integrity and the positions and accusations and stuff going on. He could have saved himself a lot of headaches by removing himself from that board. But I have no problem with letting the citizens speak and the citizens vote. I know that in history, there's only been 4 towns that have, out of all the ones who started out with home rule, with populations of over 25,000, who have removed home rule. And 2 of those, Villa Park and Lombard, thought it was going to lower their taxes and didn't understand the issue. And I think kind of regret losing home rule. There's nothing wrong with home rule. We need to retain home rule. What our problem is that our decision makers and our administration has abused what home rule is for. They've absolutely abused the money from it, right along with the school referendum. They've abused the home rule to use it for the TIF funding. Now, what we need to do is not change home rule. We need to change those decision makers.
Okay, Chris, you wanted to respond. Chris Povlsen responding to that?
Well, I think my opponent there made a mistake in saying that I oppose home rule. I do support home rules. I think that was a slip of the tongue there. I believe that the citizens need to understand home rule, and I would certainly, if home rule is an issue that individuals want to discuss and want to learn more about, I would encourage community forums, town meetings, so that the residents of this community can really understand the impact of home rule and what it allows us to do. Home rule allows us to make decisions here in our community that benefit our community as opposed to Springfield doing that. Without home rule, we would not have seen the incentives that we were able to give to the development along Sycamore Road, the development that we've seen in an increase in sales revenues from downtown DeKalb. Home rule allows us to go into our neighborhoods and deal with issues in our neighborhoods at the local level. So home rule gives the community an opportunity to work with their elected officials to make decisions for the community that the community is interested in. And so I think to eliminate home rule would be a devastating thing to this community. If people want to continue with this process, I think I am more than willing as the next mayor to have open forums and get a sense of where the community is with home rule. I do want to clear this issue of my overseeing the decision of the board to put this on the ballot or not. I came out very opposed to having home rule put on the ballot because I believe in home rule. Because I made that statement, that did not allow myself legally to recuse myself from that hearing board. I worked with my legal attorneys. I worked with the state. We talked to find out what were the rules and what were the laws that related to my recusing. Unless it was a personal conflict with one of my candidates, in fact, I legally could not recuse myself.